Good morning, YouTube. Oh, welcome, welcome to another episode of Breaking the Monolith. I am your host, Glabe. Oh, So, if you've been with me so far, you've been with me through all these previous 10 videos, you've been with me for these 10 videos, then thank you very much. You are a rock star. Made it this far, you followed me along, then you're a rock star. I love it. I love having people. I love inspiring people. I love to inspire, to teach, to learn. And with the idea of this project, um, we're looking to look at um, a real life application with some actual users and actual data. That's not just some mock-up situation that I came up with and decided, hey, I'm gonna write a video about this and do this. I actually have a game server that has been up and running for approximately a little over 2 years. I've been having beta testers play it, run around, give feedback, try it out. It's a pretty interesting game. It's pretty fun, and it's due a release the end of this month on the 25th. Um, and I'm looking to do some preps before that. I wanted to break down the monolithic application that was this giant back-end web server that had everything I needed in it, but it was this giant monolith of a program. And I wanted to get away from that because not only is it bad practice and poor design, um, but it also became very hard for me as a solo developer to tackle. And I'm the one who wrote it. But now that I have two other developers with me, my madness doesn't necessarily fly with their madness. So I need to make my madness make more sense to them so that our madness can collide and we can make some smashing uh, content. So in order to align said madnesses, I needed to break this down into a more structured or more friendly design. Um, because this was all one giant monolith, if I wanted to make a change to here or change to this or update a way that I want to, maybe I want to store a new type of log, right? Like maybe something came up and now all of a sudden I'm looking to take something else into consideration with the logs, or maybe I'm looking to change the way something is done, or maybe my Discord bot was acting up, or maybe this or that. With the old system, because it was all one giant monolith, I would have to bring everything down. That means the website, logging, services, the way the world actually logs, like the game server itself logs into my backend. Because much like a player logs into the game, my game logs into my backend. So when the game makes a request to the backend to get logged in, it gets an access key that allows it to make communications back and forth with the world, or with the universe, so to speak. And now my world is registered with the universe. And now I have players that want to come into my world and do things. Well, they can do all their little things, do their whatnots, and their information is saved, their actions are logged, all this other stuff is sent back to the universe, from the world to the universe. Um, but now, if I wanted to make a small change to said universe, I have to take the universe down, which means the world has to come down, which was becoming very difficult. Because let's face it, if you're in the private service scene, then you know what I'm going to talk about. If you're not, well, you might get lost. Um, if we happen to want to, say, update our game revision to somewhat of a newer cache version, but then something changes, something goes wrong, I have to bring everything down, everything, the whole shit show. Um, and that's not ideal, really. It really isn't. Um, so we've broken down the giant monolith, uh, and we've come down to microservices now. So now we've got a bunch of services going in our back end. Hello and welcome to the stream. Hi, great to have you here. So let me just change up to checkout so you're not looking just at my ugly mug. Let's stick me in the corner here. There we go. All right, so this is what we're tackling today. Um, this. Whoop. Where the hell is it? There it is. Okay, sorry, I have too many things opened up here. Um, Thank you for the good luck wish, my friend. So, this is this is the microservices. Basically, what it is a project or an application or whatever you want to call it, boneyard backend, and then inside of it is a bunch of sub projects or projects within projects. Um, this is what's called a multi-module design inside of a project. Um, and basically basically that means that it is a bunch of projects inside of a project, which is ultimately the architecture behind microservices, is that it's a bunch of small applications that make up a bigger application. Project's going pretty good so far. Thanks for asking. This project has been built over the course of 3 years. Yeah, 3 years. I started this project quite a while ago, and it was a giant monolith. Let me just show you what the back end originally looked like. This is the original project. It was a giant monolith. It was just one project, one source file, and it had configurations for databases and websites. It had a Discord bot that packaged into it, and then there was the business logic, which contained all sorts of things for Discord, for the economy, for market, for players. It contained information for the individual entities like items and objects and mobs for players and NPCs. It contained handlers for the universe, for sending messages back and forth, for connecting worlds, having multiple worlds connected. And this was for lack of a better term, this was a piss poor design. It was design. I basically layered things on like lasagna. I built a bit of a foundation, and then I was like, okay, now I need this. Now I need to do this. But now I need to do this. Now I need this, and this needs to change. And that, as the typical programmers could tell you, it's very easy to snowball. Um, and looking at that from a design and an architecture point of view is very bad because of the fact that things come layered like this. And this became extremely hard for me as a solo developer to keep straight in my head, keep 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 track of everything that was going on with one service and with another service. So far, we have not completed all of our services, and we have 9 services running right now. So that's 9 different little applications that made up my entire backend, essentially. Um, but I had all of those built into one big ass project, which made it, and then my mappings were extremely confusing, so that led to having a whole bunch of endpoints that were essentially very hard to maintain and to document. So the big part, the big goal of this series is to take this giant monolith of a program, walk through the thought processes and the stages of how do I separate that from the monolith and break it into its own service, and how do I build from that. Um, so that's what led us to this. Um, these are all different services. So this would be my Discord bot. This would be the REST services, and REST services are just basically HTTP messages that get sent back and forth, and they deliver a payload of a JSON. Um, if you don't know what RESTful services are, I can totally do a video on that in the future. But it's basically a service that it's in a quick way, and not to dive too much into it, it's how we structure um, it's how we structure an MVC or a microservice architecture. We use RESTful actions, and these allow us to make different post, gets, requests, different HTTP requests, so that we can essentially pass information from one service to another. And this video isn't really about this series isn't really about the inner workings of how that works. It's more about tackling the project and how to break it down. If you'd like to see something more targeted towards MVCs and microservices and like that specific architecture, drop a comment, let me know. I'll make it happen. I am going to be coming out with a new series soon. It's not going to be a live stream series. It's just going to be a video series, but it's going to be about the basics of Java, and I'm gonna try to explain things at not so much of an intermediate or an advanced level. I'm going to take the time, and I'm going to explain more in detail about what things are. So things like breaking down what the what your variables are, what your keywords are, what they mean, how to use them, how to build a class. Like, I'm gonna make a series for the basics because it's something that I've been asked about quite frequently, and I feel like it would be something that is totally worthwhile to make and to help out younger developers looking to get into programming, rather than just trying to take junior developers and turn them into senior developers. So we're looking to break down today the trade post controller. This is part of our market. So this is I just use this select open file, which takes me directly to my open file that I have here. So inside of our economy service, we're down into the trade post, and I'm looking at the trade post controller. This is going to handle the HTTP requests for all of our trade post actions, whether we're looking to get a list of sales, or sorry, get an individual sale, whether we're looking to get whether we're looking to get a list of items that are for sale based on an item ID, based on a player's name, or just get them all. So generally, this is going to need some fixing, actually, when I think about it, because my trade post in-game, the in-game interface, only has available slots for 50 items. So by me fetching all of them, that's a little overkill. So we're gonna jump into here, and we're gonna make this take in we're going to add another variable into here, and we're just going to call it paging. And this is going to be a page request of the first page. So you always want to start with the first index. But from there, I'm going to say that I want a page size of 50 results. So again, what I'm telling it is I want 50 results per page, because essentially I'm going to put this big result into a logbook, if you will, so that I can open it up and skim through the different pages and get just the results that I want to look at inside this book. So basically, I'm telling it I want 50 results per book or per page, and I want the very first page in the index, which is always 0. So now I'm going to take that paging, and I'm just going to drop that into here. And now, if you're wondering why I can just drop that in there and it still works, that's because this find all method is actually overloaded, and it takes in a pageable request, or it takes in nothing at all, or we could go in and we can, it's all because it takes in part of a paging and sorting repository, which essentially is part of our, so if you come into here, this is a JPA repository, which is essentially a list and a whole bunch of, you can look through and see what other ones, but listing and paging is one of the two things. So this allows me to either drop in a way that I prefer to sort items. So if I wanted to make my own sorting method in here, or sorting algorithm that decided to say I want to get all the lists, but I want to sort them by date, I can do something like that by just creating, much like I created a page request, I can more or less make a sort and then just drop that in instead of a page, or I can drop both in and I can get a page sorted result. I can go into a lot more of that, but again, this isn't the point of this video. So, but for now, I want to make sure that I'm getting 50 results. So that's going to now return 50 results for me. But now we need to implement this so that we're actually taking advantage of it. This is essentially how we're going to be making requests. So this is our new mapping, so our address or URL, if you will, to go to. It's going to start out with localhost, ::, whatever the service is running on, which will report the service is running on. Which in our case, if I look here, we can look and see that our trade post service is running on port 808080. 8088. Trip over my tongue. So essentially this address would be localhost or http : localhost : 8088 /API /v1 /economy market trade post. And now if we make a straight up get to this, we can say get all, and it's going to get us all the results. We can make a get request to this and then pass in an ID and the word item, and we'll get back a list of all of those items that are in the trade post. And this is just going to simply build together a list. It would just simply look through all the individual listings, and it's going to build a giant list of listings that happen to have that item ID. Same thing for player. It's going to build back a list of players, all the items that are for sale by a single player. And then I have a way to post. So if we just simply make a post request to this address, it's going to add a new listing to our database. If we make a put request, that means that we already have some data and we're just looking to put it away on the shelf and store it for later. So if we make a post request, we're adding something new. If we have some, because the best way to think about that is if you have something new and fancy, you want to go to social media and post about it, right? Otherwise, you already have this, you've made some change to it, you're just looking to put it away for the evening. You're done with it. You want to just put it away. And that's a great way to think about how you want to do this and how you want to work with things. If you want to go out and get it, you're making a get request. If you have something new and fancy and you want to save it or whatever, you want to make a post about it because you want to post to social media that you have this new thing. if you already have this toy and you just made some sort of change to it, you're done playing with it for the day, you want to tuck it away and put it away, put it in its place. Or maybe you already have it and you're like, well, delete it, it's gone. We can make a delete request to the same URL, and it will go ahead and delete um, said listing. In each of these, we're passing in a listing DTO to add, we're passing a listing DTO to update, or we're passing in an identifier to just say, hey, get rid of this one specifically. And now the way we used to interact with this, if we look at this, the way that we used to interact with it was much different. Um, it, I'm not gonna lie, this is kind of embarrassing. This code, it's horribly written. It is, as you'll see, like, this method is like 30 lines long for sending a trade post sale notification. And things like other ones here, like, look at this. This guy here is like, what, 40 lines long? Like, it's, some of these things are just huge. And they can be done, a lot smoother. So we're going to rewrite all of this stuff into a cleaner class that is also going to be just going to be more friendly. So we're going to create a new class to do this, and we're going to call this Boneyard Trade Post Client, because this is just simply a client that's going to be making requests out to the so very much like we've done this, we are going to swipe a base URL, add this, and because I said our service was 8088, we have to correctly state where we're looking to go to. And we also need to have our path correct, so that was API v1 economy market trade post. And that was the original domain that we would go to, and now we're looking to make some requests. So we're going to have a way to get a list of items by ID. We're going to have a way to get a list of items for sale by layer name. And we're also going to have a way to get all listings, and then we're going to have a way to post a new listing. We're going to have a way to put, this one's going to be a put request, and this one's going to be for posting a or to put a modified listing away. And then finally, we're going to have a way to delete. And this is the delete method is going to be a way to delete these based off of a an ID. So, with this in mind, excuse me. So with this in mind, this is how we're going to structure this class. We're going to write these individual methods in, which are going to be taking advantage of, Apache's HTTP client, and we're going to build a couple of requests to send off some information. Um, so we'll structure this pretty close to the this way. So drop this over here for now, for just a reference. And for those of you wondering, I wish I could show you more of my screens. Um, I've got multiple screens done up, and I generally would have the old, or I would have my server on one side, like I do, like you see now. But then on a different monitor, I would have my back-end services, just so that I could see the endpoints and know where I'm making my requests to. Uh, Spring Boot has a great little tool here for the endpoints that allows you to, if I look at the right one, if we look here and I go into endpoints, I can see all of my endpoints. I can choose to see just my MVC controllers or my microservices, and then I can look through these based on modules. So I can go, okay, I'm in the economy module. I want to see just my endpoints for here for the economy. And then this gives me an idea here about what the link is. You'll see all the links follow the same pattern, and then it tells me what requests are available to use on those endpoints. This is a Ultimate Edition feature to use the things like endpoints and databases, as well as be able to see things like Spring's modules. This is um, this is extremely useful. I'm not gonna lie, because you can do this. You can generate an HTTP request client. So, for example, if I wanted to get all the trade post listings, I can generate an HTTP request, which will ask me where I'm looking to go. I can say here 8088, and it generated a GET request so that I can then just hit a run, and it's going to go out and make a GET request to that, basically using curl. Now, again, that's just an easy way to also get yourself the link if you want to. I don't know. But this here allows you to see which your endpoints are so that you can assure that while you're developing, you can make sure that it's going to be right pathing or the right mapping path. So again, I usually have multiple. I usually have this opened up on my other screen so that it's easier for me to see where I'm making my endpoint connections to. And I really wish that Open Broadcast Studio would let me, or Open Broadcast Studio, the OBS, that software I use to record. I really wish that it would allow me to show up 2 monitors at once rather than just the one, so that you could see more insight onto how exactly my thought process goes. But we're working with what we got. So now I'm using this Boneyard Discord client just as a reference for myself, because we're gonna make. Let's say we have a new listing and we want to post about it. So, and I'm doing these as static inside of this interface. Static void, because it's not going to return anything. Naming is the hardest part of stuff. Is the hardest part of developing. Naming. So you generally want to name your methods something descriptive of the overall function that this method does. What does this do? This sends a. This one is essentially going to send a. Just to clear that up. So this method here is essentially going to be sending or posting a new trade post listing. So we're just going to say, well, post new trade post listing. You don't necessarily have to make things long. You don't got to necessarily make them short, but something descriptive. Now, that's probably not the best name, but it at least gives a rough description of what this method does. So when we want to post a new trade post listing, we need to take in a trade post, the trade post offer DTO. Now, the trade post offer is the new listing that's being added. Somebody is offering something to the trade post. So this is their offer, and we want to take that offer and just simply shoot it off to the throw it off to our back end network so that it can catch it, look at it, pass it off to a handler. That handler can look at it, just package it up, and store it away. So this overall method is only this is a I'm gonna try to incorporate a little more lessons with my stuff. So like this is a method. The fact that we are saying that it's going to post something, a method is only supposed to do one thing. That's sort of the structure and purpose of object-oriented program. Each object is essentially a thing, and said thing has some things that describe it, define it, as well as there are ways that you can interact with said thing. One of these ways that I can interact with my client to make my Boneyard trade post client is that I can ask it to send things, push things, do things. One of those things is to post a new trade post list. So we want to structure this, and you can really think about it much like a conversation or much like real world events and items and things like that. You're looking to post something new to the trade post. We have this new offer, so now I want to go ahead and say, okay, I want to try something, and I want to try this with something. So I'm going to try to send this off with an HTTP client, and that is how I'm going to attempt to do this. So I want to try something. And I want to try this with something. So I want to try this with something, which is essentially going to be my HTTP client. And that is equal to that of an HTTP client builder dot create, so that we create the builder, and then we just want to go ahead and build it so that we have said proper client. Now, because we're trying something, we need to add a catch clause because we're trying. There is a chance that we can fail because we're trying. So we want to make sure that if we're going to try something, it's going to appropriately be caught if we fail, so that we have a fail safe, like a safety net. Now, what is it that we're trying? Well, that's a good question. We are going to try to make, first off, a new string entity so that we can have this little thing that we can pass off in a post request. So the idea here is to we want to get an object as a JSON. So I'm going to do that with my Galave Studios network interface. I want to get an object as a JSON, and said object is, of course, what we're posting. So this is going to be my offer. So now this is a JSON object or a JSON representation of what an offer DTO is. Now, what that means is that it basically took all the variables inside of that class, and it makes a JSON file out of it, giving the name parameter being the name and the value being the value, or the key being the name and it will generate that nice JSON. And from there, we want to turn it into a string entity so that we have essentially the body of our post. So next thing we want to do here is make a new string entity. And the new string entity is going to be that of the JSON, because it basically just takes in a string, and that string is always of a JSON format. So now this is going to be our body that we're going to be sending off to our request. So next we need to actually create our HTTP post request. So thank you, AI, but we're looking to make a new HTTP post, and said post takes in an address or URL. So in our case, it is the base URL, or base URI, as I called it, and we're looking to just make a post to that specific URL. There's nothing else that we're adding to it. It's just that URL. And now this is going to be a variable of HTTP, or you know what, I'm just going to call it post. Make it easier. So this is going to be our post request. Now there's a few things that for security we have to add to this. One of those things is, well, we're gonna add a couple of headers. Essentially, I'm going to be copying these headers, and we'll just snipe that, clear it out, push it over, call it post so that it looks clean. There we go. So now we also need to snipe the API key, and we're going to steal the body as well. This is do that, call it a post, and we're good. So now we're setting the API key security as well inside of a header, and then we're setting the entity to be equal to that of the body that we had just created. So that's how we create an HTTP post request. And now the only thing we have left to do is to just simply send it. So here's where we call that HTTP client that we built, and we tell it to execute a request. The request is the post. That's it. We're done. So that's going to post off a new, that's going to then take an offer and send it to our backend, just like that. Now, this is essentially going to be the same exact code for here, except we're going to be update trade post listing, taking in this trade post, and now instead of a post request, you may have guessed it, this is going to be a put request. So we're going to call this put, and instead of being an HTTP post, we're going to change it to put. So now we're essentially telling it to be going to the same URL with the same information and the same thing, but now we're telling it to do it in a different manner. We're telling it to do it in a put manner. So that is essentially our put request and our post request. Done. That's simple. Now, next we're going to be doing get requests that are basically going to be the same thing too. But you'll see that we had a post request and a put request. Those were two different. The fact that we're making a get request, we can take advantage of object-oriented programming, and we can sort of segregate the reusable code, which would be generating the get request, as well as the way that we're going to map the result back. Because that stuff is essentially going to be the same regardless. It's just going to be a couple of variables that are going to be different here. So if we look at how we're going to go ahead and, I guess, we'll start out by getting everything. This is a funny part here, because when I was doing a get request before, so like get the trade post market listings, this one here would search for all. It's funny how this is going to turn into something a little bit smaller. However, for the sake of it, I'm going to be copying most of that. And then I'm going to be getting rid of a lot of it so that I can change it up. But that was going to utilize a get request like we did for our player profile, which is going to make this much smaller code than the massive request that we had before. So we're going to now go ahead and make a get request to get all of the listings. So we're going to go again, static, and now this one here, because it's coming back with a trade post, trade post listing DTO. I don't have that. Did I not create that? I know I created it. Okay, so we're going to copy this trade post listing DTO because we do need it here. So we're going to go into our REST client, we're going to go into our trade post, and I believe I'm calling it data, yeah, something like that. So, data, drop in trade post DTO, add it, enter, setter, come over here, trade post listing DTO, and yeah. So I'm taking this in because we're going to be somewhat using this. Say we're going to be somewhat using it. Drop that. Like log the error, that's never used. Okay, so again, we're going to be doing this here with a try catch, and I'm just actually going to steal that from here so that I can have an HTTP client. Okay, now, we want to, well, we're basically making an HTTP GET request to, so yeah, we have a GET, we're going to have a GET request, and that is going to be to the url.concat/all. So that's going to go ahead and make the request, or not it make the request, but we're going to have it, that's the URL that it's going to go to. And we want to tell it that we're going to create a variable called response. And this is going to be equal to HTTP client.execute our GET request. So that's going to be our point of reference. And the reason that I'm doing this here is this. The reason sorry here. Crawler. Sorry, guys, talking to myself as I go here. This is going to be. This is actually going to be a list. There we go. So this is going to return a list of DTOs. So now what we want to do here is, because we have a response, we want to check the response. Generally, we want to check the response, but we have it coded ourselves here, and if I show you this, we have it coded in here that the response for getting all is always going to be okay, because we can have other issues like players not found or something like that. Okay, I might have written this in a poor way, because I should be doing this in a way that makes some sort of checks to that, but instead I'm doing this, which is going to return this or null, one of the two. But either way, we're looking to all. We want to check the return status, and then we're going to map that to an object. So we want to first check out if the, I always do objects, I do objects.equals, because it just makes it a little bit easier. And then I pass in the two things that I'm looking to check. Again, I know that I want it to be an HTTP status of OK. And now what I'm passing in is going to be that of the response dot get status line. There we go. And then I want to get the status code. So this is going to return the code, whether it be 200, or whether it be something, whether it be an error, 404, 200, 201, whatever it is. This is going to tell me what it is. And now from there, sweet Jesus, I love AI. So AI basically just wrote that for me in a way, but it wrote it in a way that's not using our object mapper. I want to use our object mapper. So we'll take some of this. I'm going to tell it over here we want to have an array list. That I want to use var because it's just cleaner. Again, we're going to have a string, which is going to be the response string, which I don't think we're not actually responding with any sort of string, but we are returning with an object mapper. Now, there. I'm going to be telling this to use my mapper. So I'm just actually going to copy this to here. And we're going to get rid of this object mapper. Close up this type reference. Something about that is wrong. List, and it's being passed into an array list. Provided list, required array list. Okay. Right, that's because I stated it that way. Well, screw it, we'll just do this then. God, go away. And of course I can diamond reference that now. So there. And close you up. So there. So this is now going to, and it's a lot cleaner. This is going to make a reference out to a GET request out to our domain or our address. It is then going to fetch the response, and if the response code is okay, then we're going to create am I even referencing that word again? No. God. There. Even better. And technically speaking, I could just one-line this whole thing, because response string is technically only ever getting used in the one spot. So we'll just single line this so that it's even better. So here I'm going to get the mapper. I'm going to read in the value of it, which is this, and I'm going to map it using a type reference. And that's it. That's literally it. That maps it all in, and some of these catches are not even used. Only that one is, this one is, and an exception unknown. So we don't know, or we don't use this one. And if you're wondering how I'm quickly checking this, IntelliJ has this feature. If you click on the catch, it will highlight which section of your code it's catching. So in client protocol exception is right up here inside of the execute. The IO exception can happen either from the HTTP client, from the execute method, or while trying to wrap the string inside of string entities. And then, of course, this catch is just here to catch everything else. That's why it's just a straight up exception. Yeah, so there's that. Now, we're going to copy this. And we're going to put it up here. So we're going to get all listings for player. And we're going to change the signature to take in a string of player name, because now this is the variable that we want. And all we need to do here is .concat. So we need to add a slash in there. And then we're going to do another concatenation for the player name. And we're just changing this from all to player. And there we go. Done. That easy. So now let's do this again. Copy this, paste this up here, or item ID. And now here we're going to pass in an integer of item ID. And again, we're doing basically the same thing, except we're going to take this here, we're going to wrap it to a string, and then we're going to say item. So the only thing we're changing is the ID. And then again, we're getting all the trade post listings for a specific item ID, getting all of the listings for a specific player, getting all of the listings that are in here, adding a new one, for a new post, as well as we have the code for updating our code or updating our post. And now we just need one more to delete, which is essentially the only time we're calling delete is when the item is fully sold and now it needs to be removed from the database. At this point, we're just going to write another quick and simple little post request, and we're going to wrap that up. And for a reference, the old trade post network was like 191 lines long, doing pretty much the same thing, but just huge. The new one is going to be much smaller, much more efficient, much more easier, if that's even a term, much easier, there we go, to read, much easier to maintain. I can clean out these comments. I can then use AI to generate some actual documentation. But let's go ahead and make this a delete request. This is going to be pretty much something similar to, just going to take this, drop it here, and we're just going to change this to delete trade post listing. We can't use trade post offer here because we need a way to get the unique identifier for the trade post. All right, so we have an HTTP delete. Don't need that. So we're creating a delete request to the URL. We're adding the headers of contents, the API key, and we need a listing identifier. So this is going to be the ID of said listing, and it's going to be in a long format. And this is just going to be the listing ID. Now, we're going to go ahead and wrap that into a string, add that here, and then send out the delete request, and that is going to delete it from our database. Now, we got to externalize some shit here because I'm using it repetitively heady. Um, except for those, okay. So we're gonna go ahead and I'm actually gonna make another, we're gonna duplicate this, so that's Control D for anyone that's wondering. And I want to call this, we're just gonna call this token. And for now, I'm just going to take this token and drop it up in here. And we're just going to take token, delete, delete, token, token, token. All right, so now we've externalized the reused token with the API key so that it is now here. Now, the next thing that I want to do is I want to completely externalize it from this setting, or from this, from here, and I want to put it in a server.properties file. Where are you used? Almost everywhere. Well, this is essentially what I'm looking to do, is steal it from here and go into the trade post client, and we're going to do the same thing and just drop this in here, except I need to change it from the web key to something a little more updated, I guess. There. So now I created a new property. I called it OSBY Security REST API, just so that it has some sort of um, a familiar wording for me. But now that's how we externalize it. For those of you wondering. So instead of us having this, so initially, if you watched me, I had this token, which is my API key, and I had this hard written in every single header. Whereas now I just changed it to be a reusable variable up here, uh, token. And then I went ahead and further externalized it by putting it inside of a property value that I can now change whenever I like. Now, there's a few other layers I can go ahead and do for this to sort of segregate that and put it into another spot where then it's not even a part of my application, and it would be even more secure. However, look at that. I moved my head and I blocked the cat in the window. There we go. Now you guys have something better than me to look at. The cat in the window. Alright, so I believe that's arrows. Hey, baby boy. Yep, that's arrows. He's a cute little cat. Just gotta love. Yeah, so now I got my API key is now externalized. We can now look a little more at actually no, that's it. So that's how we create a way to take care of these listings. So now none of this is being utilized right now because the old system is still being used. So now we have to take care of implementing what we just wrote so that it doesn't break anything. So let's close everything but our trade post client, and let's bring up our old code for the trade post network. And this is asking for everything. This one here is asking um, get trade post market listings. So this is getting the listing for everything. This is getting the listings for a specific user. This is sending a notification to a player, which we didn't write in. This is looking apparently for trade posts from a specific merchant, like a single one from a specific, yeah. We're looking to remove a listing here, which we already are passing in the listing ID, and then we have a way to send it to the database. This is going to be sending either a new listing or a modified listing. So we have to go in and find out whether it's something new that we're looking to post about, or if it's something old that we have that we're looking to just update and put away on the shelf for now. Oh, sorry for the stretches, guys. This is again coffee and code in the morning, which our coffee's almost gone. So now the next thing that we're going to do here is we're going to change up this implementation, or we're going to utilize the implementation so that we can track down where we're calling this get get trade post listing, so that we can, instead of using this one, we're going to now we want to use our new modern Boneyard trade post client. So if we middle mouse click on this, for those of you in IntelliJ, you can just middle mouse click and it will take you to the implementations, or the calls where it's called. Or you can right click and do find usages. It does the same thing. Finds all usages of said thing. So I'm used to my middle mouse click, so I middle mouse click on it, and then I can see that it's being used twice inside of trade post actions, which I don't even know where that's written as. But let's go take a look at this. So request a list of the available listings. Return a list of these up to a maximum of 50 at a time. So the offers, let's take a look and see what gets done here, because this is also sorting them. Okay, so all I really want to do and change here is how I'm getting all of the listings. So Kitty Cat from the window had just decided to come and make his presence. This is my kitty cat from the window. Say hi. He is Eros. This is our god of love. He's an adorable little cat. He likes to sit on my lap while I code, and for those of you that took any sort of methodology courses, you will understand that he is my rubber duck. So is my wolf, so are all of my animals. They are all my rubber duck. Now, for those of you who took the methodology course, you know what I mean when I say rubber duck. For those of you who didn't, a rubber duck is essentially an inanimate object that you can talk to and explain your code to. So for me, I happen to talk to my animals a lot, and I explain my code to them, whether it be cute cat or a big wolf. I explain my code to them, and it helps me debug my code. So it's a great tool for any of you that are aspiring developers. Find yourself a rubber duck, whether it be a literal inanimate object or it be a physical person, being, mentor, something. Find that thing that you can talk to. And it might feel awkward at first to talk to an inanimate object or talk to a cat. But I mean, if you're one of those people that feels awkward talking to a cat, then you're probably a weirdo to begin with. I talk to my cat like I would talk to my kids, but I can't have kids, so that's a whole other thing. Now, The idea behind the rubber duck is that you can explain to this rubber duck what your code is, how it works, and it helps you as a developer to better get the insight of, oh, wait a minute, this is supposed to do this. Because the idea is that you walk through it and talk to a rubber duck like you were explaining to a child how something worked. This is also why a lot of people do videos like I'm doing, because it also helps us talk through our code to better ourselves and explain it. And yeah, so I talk to my cat a lot. I highly recommend any other aspiring developers or junior developers out there to find a rubber duck. It can even be, it can be anything. It just talk. It can be an imaginary friend of yours. So to make sure that we're actually getting all of these, we're going to go with Boneyard client. If I can type Boneyard trade post client dot get all listings. And because the old way was taking actual, and this is again why I wanted to change this, my old method was actually taking in the hard actual object. That's not recommended because you're taking the record, the actual hard record, and you're working with it. Sometimes that's good, sometimes that's bad. It's good when you're in your service layer because you can get it, change it, map it, whatever. But right here, we were taking in the hard actual object, and then we were mapping that to so okay, we took the hard objects and essentially we mapped those to a list of, why is that coming through as just straight up trade post offers? Okay. I was utilizing trade post offers. But I'm not. Okay. So this is returning offer data, offer DTOs. Offer DTO. These are both the same fucking thing. Okay. So in here, when I was doing trade post listing, I should have been doing this. Offer DTOs, offer DTOs. Yeah. Get rid of that. Okay, so that makes more sense. Okay. That makes more sense now. Okay. So now, when I come into here, we're gonna go yes, 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 yes. There. So there. Now that works, and apparently we can, oh, we're supposed to make sure that it doesn't equal null. So essentially here we're, okay, I have to do that, otherwise I'm going to drive myself nuts. If I don't do this now, I'm going to hate myself later, so we're going to make sure that the objects non-null are that of the offered list. So if the offered list is not null, we're going to come through and we are going to stream it. And basically what I'm doing here is I'm mapping it to mapping the things to actual trade post offers from these DTOs, and then I'm collecting those to a new list. That puts those offers up in a list so that I can now come through and I want to return a list. I want to return these offers. I want to stream them in and filter over them to make sure that they have search text. And then I want to return from that the offers.getDef named over so I can search for it. From there, I want to sort the results, and we're sorting offer A and offer B based on the sort. The sort is the type sort that comes in, and if we're sorting it by price, and if it's in descending order, then we do offer A get price minus offer A get price. If the price is ascending, we essentially just flip that. If we're going to go with age descending, we're looking to get timestamp and convert it. If it's age ascending, same idea, just flip it. So we're looking to be able to sort it by either age or price, basically. And after that, we are then going to then limit the result to the maximum offer, which is 50. Just in case we happen to have... Now, this is just redundancy, because in this listing, we're making a request, and in our backend controller, that request is limited to 50 results anyway. So essentially this should never happen, but if it does, we're going to limit the list, or we're going to limit the results, and then we're going to collect them to a list, and that is ultimately what we are returning overall. Otherwise, return null. And that's going to continue to be used as it is in the trade post actions. So now if we hop into the trade post network, where we're looking at this get mapping again, we can see that it is used in one other spot. So we can come back into here and we can actually snipe the code that we wrote up here. So we're just getting all listings. So we'll copy this, paste it here, and nothing goes wrong. This does one, okay, so filter. So we're going to first off filter stream over and filter. It wants to make sure the offers, whatever. So we're going to stream this over, make sure nothing is null, and then we're going to go ahead and go over all the extras that we were doing. So we're going to take this offer list, we're going to stream over it, filter out results, then we're going to check for each one, add these to the offers list, to that of the from data. And then we're going to return this, filtering them by player name. So getting offers from the web server for a player's name. Yeah, that's all. Really? Hold up here. So the offer list is going to be this. Then I'm mapping them, and then I'm filtering them out for name. Okay. Um, get listings for player, and then player name. So this is going to return just a list of these offers. Post off DTO. Yeah. So I can just simply return this for each of those. Dust. No, that's not right. I want to map. Okay. Alright, so now what we're doing in this here, when we fetch this from the web server, because we're looking for just the players' names, we're now going to be utilizing the method that we wrote inside of our client to fetch them for just player's name. And then we're going to go ahead, stream over it, make sure nothing's null, map these to the actual object, and then collect them. I really don't like how that map. Okay. Okay, whatever. So now, next thing we're looking to do, we'll get out of the actions here and back into here. So now you'll see this one to get all listings is no longer used. So theoretically, it can now be gone. Um, okay, so this one is looking to try to get a specific offer from a specific merchant. Um, get offer from merchant. Hmm. Just taking a look at this to try to break this down so that we can use it, use our current one. So this looks to loop over. This looks like it's getting all of the offers from a specific merchant, and then it's looking to iterate over all of these. Um, this might be something that we actually just take, because it looks like it's, honestly, it looks like it's something I can stick in here. I think I might have to make a service class that utilizes this. So ideally here, I'm thinking that I need a service class to um, add this action into. I might wind up renaming this one to like something like Trade Post Services. Where is this network? Yeah. I might rename this to Trade Post Services and then actually still utilize this, but instead of this one, um, I might do on your trade post client dot get all listings for this, and then say the merchant name. It's just for this does have the potential to return a null. Okay, so now this is utilizing our Boneyard client to fetch all the members. You'll notice that fetching this is now no longer used. So now we have this, which is going to be taking advantage inside of our processing offline manager. I'm going to be renaming this, but get off to services, and then get this is going to be renamed to trade post services, and getting an offer from a merchant is going to simply call out to the client to fetch all the users for this, and then we're going to double check to see for each of these listings. We're going to go ahead and double check the it was just becoming very annoying. So trade quote offer is a listing, and it's going to go over all of the listings, and then it's going to check to see if the listing that we have, if its offer timestamp is equal to the offer dot get timestamp. So this is going to be the offer that we're looking for. We want to see if this listing is equal to the timestamp and if the listing's item is equal to the item. So we're double checking that first off the time is right, because the time is using current time in milliseconds from the system. So we are essentially going to steal that long variable and make sure that the timestamps match up, and that then we want to make sure that the item ID matches up. We're doing that as just sort of a redundancy check. But from there, we're going to then set the offer DTO equal to that of said listing. Now, what I should do is do this and then just straight up return this listing. And now I can go ahead and get rid of that offer DTO, get rid of that offer DTO, and we're going to clean this up. No, we're not. I will remove this statement though. Otherwise, we're just going to return null. So this is going to go ahead, look at the listings, fetch them all for a specific player, make sure they're not null. If they are, return null. Otherwise, it's going to go ahead and iterate through each of the listings inside of here and double check that the listing timestamp is equal, as well as double check that the item IDs match. So once that makes those two checks, it's going to return the listing if it's true. Otherwise, it's going to go ahead and return nothing. Now, removing the listing, looks like we are calling that in 3 different places. So it's getting called in two places over here. So reset offer. We're going to go ahead and say boneyard trade post client dot delete trade post listing. And that is going to be what we are going to copy. Back in here, we still have two more usages. Come back in here. And if the amount left is 0, then we want to remove the listing. Else, we are looking to prepare it and then update the trade post listing. Okay, let's take care of something else. All right, so now we have one more usage of here, which is in here, which if it's out of stock, delete the listing. So now we can come in here and see that this is no longer used. So we can remove that one now. And we see now we have send listing to database, and there's a Boolean in there of whether or not it's been modified. So let's take a look and see where this is, and you'll see there are 2 trues, 3 trues, and a false. So this is adding a new listing to the database. So boneyard trade post client dot post new trade post offer. So here's where we're posting it. Done. And to make life a little bit cleaner, I like to have this a little bit easier to read. So we're going to create this listing and and then send it off new. So back in here, send this. We're going to check. These are all going to be now modified. So these are all going to be put requests. So again, we have this listing and we want to update it. So boneyard trade post client dot update listing. That's simple. Now I'm going to copy that code because it is 2 more places. So in here, this has been it's been updated. So we're going to come into here. This is now a var. Move that over. This is also going to be a var so that it's easier to read. Place this here. And we will someday come through and refactor my own code. Yeah, we will at some point in time come through here, maybe on a live stream, and we're going to refactor some of my code. That's just going to be going over it, upgrading it from more or less from Java 8 language structures to more of a newer. My client, my game server is limited to Java 8. Nope, Java 11 right now. And that is due to a poor choice that I had in the beginning, and I'm looking to upgrade it to 21 so I can take advantage of structured threads. So we've got a couple more things in here to touch up. What am I erroring on now? Oh, true. There we go. So now we're updating the listing, and we come back into trade post, send list. So now we have it here one more time where it's apparently I did clean up that one. So now if we do boneyard client update listing, there we go. So now we can come back into this trade post network and we notice this is no longer used. So we can delete that. And now we only have this one method left in here. And then we also have this send trade post offline message. This is going to be something else that we're going to have to take care of and clean up, but it will be most likely in a different video because it's more related to the Discord alerts system that we have. So I'm going to be repurposing this for a different use. So now we've broke this down. I'm gonna get rid of this. This is still being utilized here, I believe, for the clients. Yeah. There are a couple things. I'm not really sure what. I took that out. Okay. Alright, so we're gonna leave that alone for a moment. We're gonna change this. We're gonna change this to services. Change this to a service class. Because it's just basically servicing two things. This will get updated soon, be a little cleaner, because quite frankly, it's not the cleanest piece of code to read. However, that implements our brand new trade post client. So if you followed me through this video, we took a look at the trade post, how it was structured. We sort of touched up a few things, and we've created this new way in the game server, so how it can now interface with and communicate with our API that we wrote for the backend. So now, well, now the few things left to do are to one, test it, which would mean rerunning my launcher here, my server, and making sure that everything still comes up fine. So we're going to go ahead and run my game server. And this is now turning on, it's reading through some indexes, reading through some cache, loading up all sorts of files, static packages, firing on some services that need to be running, and then it's going to start taking some calls to my network. Here's where it made a request in the back end to join the party. It did get a world, did assign a token. So now it's running through, boom, turned on. And if we were to take a look, just to show you this, inside of here, we did get an alert. The alert was it saying that the game server is coming online. So I know that the alert system does work as well, because this is utilizing our backend, and right here after it finishes connecting, it sends that message to my Discord to let my players know that the game server itself has been updated and is back online, ready to be played. So this fired up with no issues. Take a double check here just to make sure I can actually log into it. And I am going to slip this off to another screen because I'm not looking to advertise this. I'm not looking to advertise this in my in this video. But let me just log in, and I'll actually turn the console back on so that you can see what's up. So it's going ahead to this is it making requests to my back end. There we go. Now I'm more logged in. So you'll see here that it more or less found me, and then it was looking to verify me to the back end server, and from there it verified that I can log in, and it then went to search for me on Discord, and when it found me, it's looking at my roles, or my roles that I have on Discord, and from there it generates some accesses. So these are IDs that I use to identify my in-game roles so that I can give permissions to people when they log in based on their Discord roles. So here it is where I have the updated information, and now I'm looking to update the user into the appropriate groups based on this array of numbers that came in. Once I've done it, I get it flagged as a successful login, and then I make a post request back to my backend to update the world information about Boneyard and let it know that the population has increased. Other than that, I get a message back saying that it was done and that my player was loaded with index of 0 because I'm the only player on. And now that I've actually logged in, you can see that I've logged in yesterday, more or less. But this gives me the freedom to be able to run home. Not that you can see what I'm doing right now, but I'm going to check the trade post to see if there's any listings in there. And in theory, it should open up and let me know that there are none, which I see that there aren't. And you'll see there I just made a call and there are 0 listings in the database. But now if I was to go back into my spot here, and I'm just going to spawn myself in an item so that I can add it to the database or add it to the post sale here. Okay, and something went wrong. Something went wrong. Let's take a look to see what went wrong. This would be my trade post services, and by the looks of it, invalid character found in the method name. Yeah, the invalid character there. If you look at this array, it starts out empty, right snugged up against this little brace, and by the end of it, there's a space, which spaces are invalid characters. And I'm also not sure if it allows for the special character of star. So let's. That was when I posted a new. That's when I posted a new. Right? Yeah, posted a new. Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot that I made that a static reference. Okay. That wouldn't be the reason, would it? Let's try this again. Here. Into here, try to add this again, try to add 1, add it for 5,000,000, or 5 whatever, and nothing. Okay. Trade post services. I'm going to go ahead and reboot the service. So I want to see what happens when I make that request. Get myself another whip so that I can try to send this over. Add this, go with 1. Okay, so it did take it. Okay, so I need to stop my trade post service for a second. I just want to double check something here, guys. So, ah, 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 ah. Okay. So I think I know what's going on here. I do have a repository. However, so what went wrong there was the fact that I was turning on a service, I created a service, but I never assigned a data source. So I never actually assigned it a database, so to speak. So while I'm here adding items to it, they weren't being actually added to it because there wasn't anything to add it to. So now, if I make that, it looks like it did complete the request, but it didn't actually add it to the... Yeah, it looks like it's not being actually added. So I need to stop this service, create this, trade post database because I want to go into the database and see what's up. We have one table with trade post listings that aren't being updated with a record. So when I call this here to save the listing DTO, this is going through creating a list and it's saving it to the repository, trade list repository. I have a funny feeling that this is not, I got a funny feeling that this is not wired properly. However, I actually have to go. I have a doctor's appointment in the next 25 minutes, so I have to jump off. When I go live again, we will take care of um, getting this wired together, getting our trade post working, and making sure that everything comes up in game properly. Might even slip the game in there a little bit to show you, but I want to first and foremost make sure that the wires are connected and everything gets lined up. So if you've been with me this far, this long, thank you very much for sticking it out and hanging out with me. I really appreciate it. If you've learned something, go ahead and hit that thumbs up. Let me know that this was somewhat useful for you. If you want to check out my next live streams when I go live again and we dig a little deeper into this, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. You'll get notified when I go live, when I make comments. If you want to join my Discord community, I have a link in the description. Go ahead and ask me live questions, chit chat with me, shoot the shit, whatever it is. Just hang out and chill. Whatever. That's what I do. Join the community. Really recommended. We're trying to build something beautiful where we can have a whole bunch of developers in there chatting and helping each other out. It'll be a great little community once we get it up and going. If yeah, I will be going live again maybe later on today. I'm not 100%. It kind of depends on how my day goes. I've got a pretty clustered day. I will try to get on later on. If not, hit that keep that notification bell turned on so that you can get notified when I do go live. I'm trying to go live at least every day, at least once every day. It's just, it is what it is. I code every day, so I want to start live streaming what I code. Hopefully, if nothing else, it'll help some aspiring developer become a developer. It might help some junior developer move themselves up to a senior developer. I don't know. But I'm here to help. I'm here to mentor. I'm here to create some content. So if you enjoy this, if you enjoy me, go ahead and hit that thumbs up, hit that like, hit that whatever the hell it is that we hit to get ourselves out there. It's been fun. I really enjoy doing these. I had a lot of fun. I'm going to be making, there will be a video series coming up soon. It's not going to be a live stream. It will be a video series, and it's going to be more targeted towards basics. I'm going to take you on a journey of what Java is. We're going to talk a little bit about, we're not going to go into the depths of the fact that it was originally going to be named Oak instead of Java, but we're going to go down to the details of what things are, like what integers are, what longs are, what's the difference between a long and an integer, what's the difference between a primitive and an object, and we'll talk about some of the other basics, like what is static, what is package private, what is public, what is private, like what do all those words mean? Like, well, we're gonna break this down and talk about that in some basic videos that you won't want to miss if you are an aspiring developer. If you're an advanced developer, then you might want something more like my Spring Boot courses. I've got a few videos up there as well on which is just more or less running through some real-world Spring Boot applications, building up the portfolio, building a Discord bot with it. I have a couple of advanced videos out there if you want to check those out. They are on my channel. If you're a new and aspiring developer, please let me know what you want to see, because I want to create. And yeah, keep that coffee cup full, keep your curiosity open, keep your skills sharp, and we'll see you in the next video. Thanks for joining.